Get strong.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's The Beautiful Bag podcast. This week, I'm bringing you a great guest, Keyla from Lawrence, Mass. She's from right outside of Boston, homegirl to me. We're North Shore girls, so we truly connected the second we turned on the cameras here to be able to talk to you guys. And Keyla has a great story. I'm dying to get into it. I told her I was been stalking her on Instagram, watching what she's doing. And I'm not going to even say a word. I'm going to let you guys listen while she shares her story. So Keyla, thank you so much for having us here. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Leanne. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be here to share my story with you guys.
I love it. So, let's dive on in here. So, let's talk about your story. What led you to being in an ostomy?
So I now have Crohn's disease. I used to have ulcerative colitis, which is an irritable bowel disease. For those who don't know what it is, it's inflammation in your digestive system. So I was diagnosed 10 years ago with ulcerative colitis. And for the most part, the first few years, I was pretty under control. But then about 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with uterine cancer, and things just kind of like went out of whack. I couldn't get my body to stay under control, and not because of treatment or anything. It's just the stress of I needed to have a hysterectomy. Thankfully, I did not need to have any chemo treatment or anything like that. But just, that whole ordeal kind of threw my body out of whack, and I was never able to get myself under control after that. So I failed every medication available to me. And then 2 years ago, they pretty much were like, well, you can either continue to take these meds that aren't really working, or you can have your large intestine removed. And I was like, take it out. By then I was just suffering way too much. So I had the surgery, and then I had a temporary ileostomy for 2 months, and I felt amazing with my ostomy those 2 months. And then I had a reversal. So they took the small intestine, created a J pouch so that I could go to the restroom normally like everybody else. And I had that for 2 years. And at the time I worked full time for a main hospital here in Boston. I was a surgical assistant, and it was just so much stress on my body with healing, working full time. I wasn't my health was declining. I needed to have IV hydration, for 8 hours weekly. I had a PICC line in, I was working, it was just so much. I'm handing surgical instruments in the middle of surgery, and then I'm I gotta run to the bathroom. I'm so sorry. So
whoa.
it was just so much. My nurses would come to the hospital, and they would change my dressing for me while I was at work during my lunch. It was so many things. And at that point, I wasn't even living. I would come home at 7:30, and my 11-year-old would tuck me into bed at 9 when he's going to bed. And then I have to be up the whole thing the next day. So I ended up quitting my job after that. And then I still was declining. And eventually I just said, I can't do this anymore. And they said that the pouch was inflamed as well. So they wanted to disconnect it and give me a permanent ostomy, which I just had this month, a year ago. So
you're a newbie.
I am a newbie. I've done so much though, with it, but in the last year and everything, but I did have the surgery a year ago, and the first 3 or 4 months I was doing amazing. And then I started having, my bag was filling with blood for a month. And then they weren't fully convinced that I had Crohn's. I got scoped, and then they were like, it is Crohn's. And in May, because we're in September now, in May, I started meds again for Crohn's, and I'm doing okay. I don't want to say I'm doing well. I mean, I'm gaining weight, which is amazing, and I'm able to eat and do so much more, but it's still definitely a struggle, a big struggle every day.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's a lot in a very short amount of time. And it's still new and raw for you to be going through right now. So how are you handling it?
I have my days, like everybody else. I have my days. Thankfully advocating, and now that I've been modeling and advocating have been sort of my outlets and keeping my mentality like in the game and focused and just stable too. I do also practice just as much self-love as I can too. I do a lot of journaling. I journal my entire journey. I track so many things, like from my food, my water intake, just to make sure that I'm staying on top of things and staying as healthy as I possibly can. And also, I always tell everyone, like, my will to live is strong. Like, I just want to be healthy and there for my son as much as I can. And I fight every single day just to stay here with him and be healthy enough to do the things that I can with him.
Wow. Wow. That's a lot. Usually people don't get me a loss for words, but I'm just sitting here like, that's a lot. And that takes a lot of strength. That takes a lot of inner strength. And I love how you said that you're teaching yourself, or you're giving yourself that self-love, that self-care that you need. And by journaling, I think a lot of people think more, self-care is, the spa and stuff, but journaling, getting your thoughts out, journaling what you're eating and how much water you're drinking, so you can stay ahead of, certain things that can happen. Because especially without a colon, we know hydration is hard, right? It's harder to hydrate. So what are some of the things that you do to keep yourself hydrated?
I am always carrying water and some form of electrolytes with me. So I've kind of like played a lot with different forms of electrolytes, from alkaline water to what I'm drinking right now, which is Pedialyte, and like different powdered mixes. What's worked best for me, from me tracking, I've learned that if I drink 8 ounces of electrolytes and then I drink at least 40 ounces of water, I'm staying hydrated enough. If I drink any more than that, my output becomes too watery, but I'm doing okay, not too bad. Anything less, and if I don't have electrolytes every day, I notice I'm getting dehydrated. And I've come up with this from tracking and putting everything in my journal, because I don't want to pick line again. I don't want to have IV hydration. I don't want to end up in the hospital. I've been there enough times, and if I can,
you worked there and been there.
Exactly. So, I've definitely learned a lot from me doing this. It's a lot of work, absolutely, but in the long run, it's helping me. That's
great. That is wonderful. Now, what are you doing from a nutrition standpoint? Like for your specific diet for you, what are some things that, we know everyone is different. And you're learning things about yourself. What are you doing from nutrition?
Kind of the same steps. I'm definitely tracking to what I'm eating, what times I'm eating, how often I'm emptying, how my output looks like. And that's helped me a lot to figure out what I can and can't eat, how I react to certain things. So I do mostly gluten-free diet, dairy-free. Even like almond milk and like some of the dairy-free stuff like still upsets my stomach. So I don't want to, taper too much into it. So I stick with I know and what works. Also, I have seen an integrative medicine doctor, and she did like a huge extensive food allergy test on me. And I ended up testing positive for like the randomest things, like cinnamon and like black pepper. And like, those are things that like you use every day that you would never think of being allergic to.
Right.
But seeing her definitely helped me learn so many things. And she's like, you can have an allergy, but not anaphylactic.
Okay.
It could, and like she's like, you can have like on my forehead, if like people really zoom in, they can see like these tiny little bumps. I get all these little tiny bumps, and if I have too much starches, that's what happens to me. And she's like, it's kind of like a bacterial overgrowth sort of that you're getting from them. So I've been able to like pinpoint a lot of things from going like a holistic way with things, but also tracking too.
That is phenomenal advice for people. That it really is. So if anybody's having those issues, or having something that they, tracking it could be key. They could figure out from there. And then, like you said, I mean, you're going to, a holistic practitioner, in order to help you with on the food side. So those are two great tips. So let's get into the modeling, because so from going to being a surgical nurse to start new stuff, I'm on Instagram like, oh, look at her go. Oh, New York Fashion Week. Okay. All right there. So let's talk about that. When did you get into doing that?
Oh my gosh. If I told you like so many things that I've done since I stopped working, you'd be like, who is this person? Right before I had my ostomy, I had gone, I don't know if you've ever heard of them. It's 11 Health and Tech. They're the first company in the world that's come up with the first ever Bluetooth ostomy bag. And it tracks your your output and your body temperature, and that information goes Bluetooth to your phone and it gets sent to your doctor. So they were doing a huge, this is right before COVID, this huge IBD thing for ostomates, and they were having like a huge like weekend in Vegas where you could go, and they were going to have a bunch of speakers, a fashion show and everything. And there is a double ostomy bag model by the name of Jerlene. I'm sure
Yep, she's been on here.
Yes.
Yep, she's amazing.
So she actually worked with that company, and I had won like a free trip to go there. It was like super, random. And I saw her, and her story was just so inspiring to me. And at the time, I was like, I need to work for them. And I ended up interviewing. I worked for them for a little bit. And then I kind of went my own way. And then I had my surgery, and I was just like, I want to do a photo shoot for myself. I just want to like feel better about my body. And I have a friend who's a makeup artist. And so she helped me out, and she was like, let's do a photo shoot. And I was like, I want to do something with my hospital bracelets. So I have sometimes, if you see like certain pictures, I have the last 3 years worth of hospital bracelets in like a huge chain. And I wear it sometimes as a necklace when I do like charity events or anything IBD related. And so I was like, can we use these in the photos? And she was like, absolutely. So she created this like beautiful headpiece to put on me. And then I was basically like tapering all of the hospital bracelets around me, and they did my makeup and my hair, and we took the pictures. And then me advocating, I met someone through Instagram who is a Vogue editor, and I was like, this person's not a Vogue editor, like she could just be saying it, like who is she really? And she has IBD too. And then eventually we kept speaking, and I showed her the photos, and she was like, no, you can't let these go to waste. And so she was like, do you mind if I do anything with them? And I was like, sure. Like, what are you going to do with them? Go right ahead. So she submitted them to a magazine, and next thing I know, I am published in that magazine. And
that is phenomenal. And this was all during COVID.
This is all during COVID. Yep. It was literally earlier this year. Yeah. Earlier this year.
Oh my God.
The publication came out in January. The first magazine is called Elements. It's out of New York City. And she sends me the email and she's like, look, and I still didn't believe it until I ordered the magazine. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's me. Like, that's really me. And so, before, when I was younger, I always wanted to model, and I had been approached by Miss Massachusetts, actually. And at the time, I had like a very controlling boyfriend, and he was just like, no, like, you are not going to model. So I got that out of my head. And when this happened, I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I can do this. I can absolutely do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I started working with her. Then she started lighting a fire in me. And I was like, I want to do runway. I want to get into runway. And I was like, how can I get into runway? And so I started researching like a mad woman. I found one of the runway models from America's Next Top Model, and she was offering runway classes. And I was like, well, who better than like one of these girls, you know, like they learned that. So I reached out to her and we did a 13-week course of runway training. And then I ended up getting into Vogue Model Boot Camp, and I trained for like a posing class and more runway training. And so I've just kind of like dominoed into so many other things, like my current runway shows that are happening now. Because of all the hard work I've been putting in, I will be walking in London next week, walking this weekend, and New York Fashion Week. I'll be walking at the end of this month for Rhode Island Fashion Week. I'm doing a runway charity event for Boston Children's Hospital in October. I've done Cleveland, I did Baltimore, and this weekend will be the first time ever that I will be wearing swimwear.
All right. We're going to talk. Holy. So how do you feel about that? Like, you must be so stoked.
It's so much, honestly, Leanne. Like, I'm sitting here and I always have my magazines next to me when I'm speaking to sort of like remind me and bring me like centered. Not that like all of this is getting to my head, but just, you know, to remind me my purpose of why I'm doing this. And I've been published 6 times in a magazine, like international magazines. And I'm just like,
Since
January. I don't know what to say. Like I'm nervous to walk in a bathing suit. I'm going to be very honest, in front of like so many people. Like, this is the first summer that I've worn a swimsuit with an ostomy bag, and I wore it twice. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what if it leaks? You know, like all the stress, all the worries, aside from being a woman in a bikini too, you know, like, you're wearing an ostomy.
Add that in.
And I auditioned for Miami Swim Week, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like, everybody's staring at me. And then finally I was just like, you know what, like, this is me. This is my body. This is the healthiest I've been. And none of these people know my journey and what I've been through and what I go through every day. And I'm comfortable and I'm happy and I am healthy and I'm not in a hospital and I'm living my life. And if it's with a bag, then so be it, pretty much.
Oh, I love everything about all of that. Because, you know, you fell into something that you were passionate about prior, you wanted to do for such a long time, and you didn't fall into it. You've worked without knowing it all this time to get to the place that you're at. You've made the right connections to get to the place that you're at. And like you said, you work hard. Your journaling is work. And you even said something that was so important to just anybody, whether you're in an ostomy or not. You have your magazines next to you, your achievements next to you, to remind you that you can do this, that you have accomplished this. And Keyla, you've done this this has been since January. I mean, this is September. By the time we go to this gets published, it'll be October. But you've been doing so much in such a short amount of time. And that is just so awesome. I'm so excited for you. And the thing that I love the most is there was a very short time, well, I used to do fitness competitions. And for a very short time, I used to sell makeup, and I worked for Tyra Banks directly. Like, yeah. So when you said, you know, I worked for her, with her, when she was launching her cosmetics company. I met her a bunch of times. She taught me how to pose, the whole thing. And yeah, we'll talk about that. I can see it. We'll talk about that off of this, because this is about you. But I get what you mean when you're like going somewhere and somebody teaches you how to pose, how to walk, that must bring. Talk about the confidence that has come out of doing that for yourself.
Oh my gosh. Like, it's brought me, I can tell you, so back in March is when I like really started my training hard. And I was like, I want to be, you know, an advocate. I want to be able to speak good. And literally I was like, my throat is closing. I cannot speak. I can't do podcasts. How am I going to get through this? I looked up so many different ways, and I was like, how can I become a better speaker? The only way I can become a better speaker is if I'm confident in myself first. So I was like, well, how do I want to be a good runway model? I want to be trained by the best, because I know, one, I'm not tall enough. I have an ostomy. I have so many things like working against me. I'm tattooed, colored, you know, like so many different things working against me. And I was like, I'm okay with working hard, but I want to learn from the best, because I know that I'm going to have to work harder than some people, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. So that's why I had applied to Vogue Model Bootcamp. That's why I was like, I'm going to find, you know, Tyra Banks. And I'm like, what is she doing? Like, I've watched her show. So I know someone's out there like doing something. So then I found my runway training coach, and she was just like baffled by me. And she was like, we're going to get you to London and New York. And it's just brought my confidence to just like another level. Being, like I said, a woman, like having lost all my hair, not due to cancer, like just from the medications I've been on. It's so many different things. Seeing your body go through so much, it breaks you. It definitely can get to you. And doing all of this, now I'm just like on the runway, like like it's nothing now. And people are like, what are you thinking while you're out there? I'm like, honestly, I'm just like, do not trip. Like, if I fall, try to fall gracefully, like, you know?
Right? Kind of like Carrie Bradshaw in that Sex and the City scene, when she was like in her underwear and they had a coat on and she tripped and she just got up and walked anyway. Like, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing when you have those big heels on. But I'll tell you, I have seen the videos that you're putting out on Instagram, and girl, you can walk. Like, you have a signature walk that other people don't have. You really do. And it's amazing to see. It really is. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Honestly, like I said, it's just, I practice like a mad woman. Like I put tape on my floor, walked that straight line. I walked so much during Vogue Model Bootcamp that I could not walk straight. Like I couldn't stand up straight because my back hurt so much from runway camp. Like, I'm like,
because you're,
yes. And I have bad posture. So at the end of boot camp, I was like taking so much Tylenol because I was like, I had so much pain. And I had literally applied for Vogue Model Boot Camp from my hospital bed. Like, I was in the middle of a huge flare in the beginning of May, and I get this notification from Coco Rocha a week later, and she's like, you've been accepted into camp. And I was like, am I going to be out of the hospital by then? Like, how am I going to get there? So I honestly, I was like, I'm okay if I'm in pain, because I'm like, it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. Like, I know it is. And it has been. It definitely has been for me.
I am so thrilled for you. So we got London Fashion Week to look forward to. We got New York Fashion Week to look forward to. You're going to be strutting yourself in a bikini, in a bathing suit. I cannot wait to see it all. I'm going to be watching every bit of it, because I just love this stuff. I eat this stuff up. My favorite. my favorite stuff. So Keyla, if you were to leave our listeners with one thing, what would that one thing be?
Believe in yourself. Never give up. I know that's more than one thing, but definitely have a good support system, and always, always, always like take care of yourself, and remember to do your self-love and be kind to yourself, because our bodies are doing so much every day for us, even just without having an ostomy or anything. They wake us up every day, we have to walk. They're doing so many things in the background that we don't even remember or notice. And just be kind to yourselves, and you'll get through it.
I love that. So if everybody, if people want to follow your journey, if they want to be like, all right, I'm going to go stalk her and see what she's doing on all these fashion shows, where is the best place, and what's the handle? Where should they find you?
Definitely my Instagram. I mean, I have TikTok and Facebook and all that, but I do not keep up with them just because I've been so busy. But definitely my Instagram, which is at Keyla, KEYLA.IC. And my portfolio's on there. You guys will see all my runway shows, me being silly, just living life to the best ability that I can.
I love that. All right, Keyla, thank you so much for being here with us this week.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor.